back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
Sounds like Venice is sinking. Is it? This is Boomer Life on CL 650 and an hour-long conversation with our friends from the Alzheimer's Society of BC. And we were listening to the intro of a Spirit of the West song because John Mann and his wife Jill Daum were special guests on our show today. In studio with me is CEO Maria Howard right now, and we've just heard some really gut-wrenching testimony from Dr. Bruce Hobson about what it's like to actually deliver the news of a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease or dementia or cognitive impairment. And then John Mann and his wife Jill were also on the show talking about receiving a diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's. And Maria, the one thing I didn't ask Dr. Bruce Hobson was, is there any difference in receiving a diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's or just regular Alzheimer's?
Well, that's a question that I think the physician would probably provide a medical explanation to that.
I should have asked the doctor, yeah.
Certainly, we know from families who have been touched by early onset, the progression of the disease seems to be a little more rapid than maybe perhaps someone who is diagnosed later in their maybe 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
And sometimes there might be some genetic factors, again, more related to someone who's earlier than opposed to somebody who is later. But again, I'm sure a physician would have more of a medical answer to that. But I think at the end of the day, the need for information and support and decisions about how you live with this is still the same.
Mm-hmm. So it's now my pleasure to introduce our next guest as we wrap up this conversation today. We have Delia Vischer on the phone. Now, Delia is no stranger to this show. She was a very special guest in studio about this same time last year. So, Delia, thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you for inviting me again to participate with you.
Well, it's wonderful to have you joining us on the show, and it's all because of the Scotiabank Half Marathon and 5K. It's coming up June 26th. We know this is on your calendar.
Definitely.
And this year, the Alzheimer's Society of BC is the featured charity. So we understand, Delia, you've been the top fundraiser for several years in a row now. Can you talk a little bit about that, and what's your driving passion behind this event?
Oh, sure you can. Well, I became involved with the Alzheimer's Society when my husband, Jance, was diagnosed about 3 years ago. And we wanted to learn as much as we could and become educated because we knew that we were in for a long journey. My husband is one of 7 children, of which all 7 have Alzheimer's. So 5 of them, 2 of them are still alive, and the rest of them have died of Alzheimer's. So I had enough to motivate me to really do what I could to help raise funds for the Alzheimer's Society of BC.
Okay, so tell us what you've done. You've signed up to do what?
I've signed up to do, you mean for how much to raise?
And which event?
Pardon me?
And which event? Are you doing the half marathon or the 5K?
I'm doing the half marathon.
Oh, my goodness.
That's always
Wonderful.
a challenge for me. I mean, every year I say, well, this year I'm 85 and I really want to do it. And again, then I say, oh, why not? I can do it.
Oh, this is so incredible. You've got such great spirit. So tell us what you've done to fundraise.
Well, what I've done is kind of sent emails to all the people who had fundraised. I was fundraising last year with them, and just to remind them that this is the time of year again, and believe it or not, I'm going to do it, and please send me your donation or sponsor me and go through the Alzheimer's Society, or you can send it right to me. Because a lot of people don't like to register online. They don't like to do anything like that.
Certainly.
So, and also anybody who's listening who would still like to sponsor me, they can also do that by, can I put in a bid for that?
Well, that's what we're here for. Okay. Tell us, how do we sign up and put some money in your pocket?
Okay, you can reach Patricia Gooch at pgooch@alzheimerbc.org, or you can phone her at 604-742-4945, and she'll be happy to process the donation and see that a tax receipt is sent out, and also that the sum is added to my list of donors.
Oh, that's incredible. How do we spell Gooch?
Gooch.
Oh, just like it sounds.
Right.
That's great. So how did you initially connect with the Alzheimer's Society and become involved? Did you just pick up the phone one day and say...
No, actually, I went with Jance there to the office and wanted to get as much information and written material, and Cara was there at that point, and she spent, time explaining what we were in for, and the journey was unfortunately never ending until the very end and was not going to get any better, and then gave us all sort of printed material that we could study at home. So that's what we did.
Well, that's wonderful. And so tell us about where is your husband at now?
My husband is at a residence here at South Granville Park Lodge, which is just 4 blocks from where we used to live, where I still live. So I bring him home every day from after lunch until dinner time. So he, still feels that he's still part of my family.
Oh, sure. So even though he's in a home and getting proper care,
right,
he's still an active member of your immediate life as well.
Definitely, yeah. I don't want him to feel that he had never, that he is. I know I also go to the support group, and sometimes there's some people there who say, well, I can't really relate to my husband. He's not the man I married, etc. And I kind of wonder, well, are you the woman he married? I've been very good. I haven't said anything yet.
Good for you. Now, it sounds like you're a very active person. What do you do to train for a half marathon? What does your active schedule look like?
Well, my active schedule is usually in the mornings. Sorry, either I'll go to the gym or I will do at least one 10K a week, and then also I go to the university to keep to Simon Fraser University, so that I keep active mentally as well as physically, and those the days go on like that, and you just keep adding a few kilometers each week, building up to the 21 kilometers for the half marathon.
Oh my goodness! And every year you say, "Oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it again next year."
Yeah, that's my usual. People are tired of hearing me say I'm not going to do it. They say, "Don't bother telling us that. We know you're going to do it."
We know you're going to do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, as long as you're walking, talking, and breathing, you're in there.
Yeah.
And you did mention you're going to be 85 this year.
No, I am 85 already.
You're 85 already.
I start the new year always with a birthday.
Okay. Now, can I ask what kind of a time you run a half marathon?
I walk. I don't run.
Okay.
I usually do it in about 3.5 hours, and it's supposedly you're to do it in 3 hours running at the latest. And so far, nobody's told me to get off the course. By the time you're almost at the finish line, they kind of urge you on. There are people always yelling, cheering you on Pacific Avenue when you get there. And they're, of course, through the whole race, there are wonderful musicians who are keeping you uplifted and, going on and all of that. So there's always something to keep you motivated.
Oh, that's so great. So I'm just listening to you and seeing here it's really never too late, and you're never too old to actually make a difference. So
that's right.
What kind of advice could you give someone if they wanted to sign up and they wanted to do some fundraising for the Alzheimer's Society, but they're a little bit nervous, or they're not gun shy, or they're gun shy and they're not as forward thinking as you?
I think the most important thing is the timing, because when I do fundraising, I usually check to see, first of all, when is Easter, and I try to do it just after Easter. And there are so many races going on, at this time of year for various charities, and everybody has their own particular one. And then I also try to approach people just before or just after they have made their summer holiday plans. When either before they spend all their money on the summer holiday, I kind of get to them to please sponsor me. And so it's, just kind of timing, checking which races. I mean, I do 10 races a year, and I don't fundraise for any of the other ones, but just to make sure that whatever you want these people to contribute for you, that you're not going to infringe on their best charity that they like so much, but they're willing as a friend to help you out too.
Well, Delia, best of luck with all your fundraising goals, and thank you for sharing your spirit today. We hope it's infectious and encourages others to take part, so have fun on the 26th of June.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Delia Vischer, 85 years old, one of the top fundraisers for the Scotiabank Half Marathon and 5K. The Alzheimer's Society is the featured charity to benefit from the event this year, and Delia mentioned she's doing this in honor of her husband, who's still alive but has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, one of 7 kids. All 7 kids diagnosed. I don't think she shared that with us last year. Maria, any final comments on today's show? We've talked about diagnosis as the main topic, giving it and getting it.
I think the two thoughts that come to mind, and I think our guests all said this in their own unique way, is first of all, people are not alone. There are others who are experiencing this. And so the best thing to do is to start a conversation, whether that's with your physician, whether that's with people who are close to you, but reach out, begin to talk about it. reach out for support and education, and know that you're not alone, and that while this is very difficult, as Jill said, life can still be really productive and enriching and fulfilling.
Thanks to all of our guests today. Maria Howard, CEO of the Alzheimer's Society of British Columbia. We had Jill Daum, acclaimed writer and actor, and wife of John Mann from Spirit of the West, who is 53, but it was 3 years ago he went public with the diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's disease. And also thanks to our guest, Dr. Bruce Hobson, on the perspective of administering a diagnosis of dementia. And lastly, thanks to Delia Vischer and her champion spirit and fundraising for the Alzheimer's Society and running a half marathon on June 26th. Thanks to you for being part of this conversation as well. We do it monthly on Boomer Life. I'm Joanne Sutton on CL 650.